morning, good evening, wherever the world you're watching from. It's Business Morning, live from Channel's headquarters right here in Lagos. Thanks for sharing your morning with us. But let's kick off first with some business news. Now, the acting chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Zach Adedeji, is targeting a tax-to-GDP ratio of 18% within the next 3 years. He made this commitment yesterday when he officially took over from his predecessor, Mohamed Nami. The goal is to surpass Africa's average tax-to-GDP ratio of 16.5%, which he believes would reduce the country's reliance on borrowing and ensure financial sustainability. Nigeria ranks as one of the lowest tax earners globally, with a tax-to-GDP ratio of 10.8%. Let's drilling now on the markets. Now, starting with the global oil market, we see oil prices rose today for the fourth consecutive session as a weak shale output in the United States spurred further concerns about a supply deficit stemming from extended production cuts by Saudi Arabia and Russia. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude rose by 98 cents, about 1.1% to $92.46 a barrel, while the global benchmark Brent crude futures rose 46 cents to $94.89 a barrel. We'll drill down on what's driving sentiment on the commodities market update. To the grains market, now we see Chicago wheat slid more than 1% today, dropping to a one-week low as cheap Russian grain flooded the market and the docking of ships in Ukraine eased concerns over supplies from the war-torn country. The most active wheat contract on the Chicago Board of Trade, WV1, was down 1.4%. at $5.83 a bushel after dropping to its lowest since September 12th at $5.82 for a quarter. Corn CV1 slid 0.4% to $4.69 for 3/4 of a bushel, and soybeans SV1 gave about 0.4% to $13.11 for a quarter of a bushel. So we see prices in the grains market going one direction, which is down, while oil prices are going up. Now to some other news. Now, the U.S. Deputy Treasury Secretary Wale Adeyemo has assured Nigeria that his country is committed to maintaining a strong relationship as part of efforts to transform the country's economy. He made the remarks during a visit to Nigeria, where he met with officials and business leaders at the Lagos Business School, where discussions centered on avenues for increased trade, with a focus on areas such as energy, agriculture, technology, and finance. Take a listen.
Business leaders from a cross-section of Nigeria's financial and media industries gather at the instance of the United States Deputy Secretary of Treasury, Mr. Wale Adeyemo's visit. Mr. Adeyemo comes as a representative of his president, Mr. Joe Biden, to share the commitment of the United States to a strong and mutually beneficial relationship with Nigeria. He highlights steps which Nigeria could take to optimize its economic potential.
Nigeria needs a stable naira. You stop into any small business or market, and you will hear shop owners and customers bemoaning the lack of a stable currency. Unifying Nigeria's foreign exchange rate will also create the kind of macroeconomic stability that is essential to attracting foreign investment. We commend the difficult steps your government has already taken to accomplish this goal. The path to unification is not an easy one, as everyone is experiencing, but going backwards would be even worse. Second, the government needs to articulate and implement a credible fiscal strategy that will provide the resources to make critical investments. I recognize the decision to end fuel subsidies is hard for many Nigerian households, but it was an important early step to create resources the government can use to invest in fiscal and digital infrastructure, education, and a strong small business environment. There is nowhere this need is greater than the agricultural industry, which, despite the digital revolution going on in Nigeria, remains Nigeria's top employer.
The points were further elaborated during a question and answer session.
This economy is slipping. Multidimensional poverty is going through the roof. So how bullish is your government in dealing with this problem?
Great, thank you. So you have
At the end of the event, the host, the Vice Chancellor of the Pan-Atlantic University, Dr. Ignacio Conedo, lists key takeaways from the session.
We are happy that he chose the Lagos Business School to come and share the thoughts. It's always very important to understand how our largest trading partners as a nation, what they're thinking and the ways in which they can contribute and work together with us in order that we grow economically and socially. So for him to choose this platform to come and make this speech that reiterates the commitment, I think that that's fantastic. And if anything else, it gives us the assurance that as we pursue economic growth, as we pursue security, as we pursue stability across the nation and indeed across the region, that we are not alone, we're working with very strong partners.
As the global economic landscape becomes increasingly interconnected, the significance of such high-level dialogues cannot be overstated, as it not only symbolizes the strength and resilience of U.S.-Nigeria economic relations, but also catalyzes future collaborations that could shape the economic destinies of countries.
And gas retailers have warned that the price of 12.5 kilogram cooking gas may hit 18,000 naira by December if the federal government does not restrict the activities of the terminal owners. That's about 121% from where we are. Jump, if that happens, imagine having to pay that much for gas when you're paying about 500 to 600 naira per liter for fuel. Well, let's talk to Kelvin Emmanuel, CEO of Dairy Hills Limited, joining me from our Abuja studio. Good morning, Kelvin. Great to have you.
Good morning, Ladi. Thank you for having me.
So Kelvin, I saw your tweets yesterday. You analyzed the reason why cooking gas prices will go up. And at the end of your tweet, you said that the pepper that is coming, Kelvin, I don't think consumers can take this right now. Why are cooking gas marketers forecasting this increase?
Well, you know, Ladi, there are quite a number of factors that contribute to the price of LPG. It's worthy to mention that Nigeria's consumption of LPG per capita, total consumption has risen by 10 times, from about 220,000 metric tons to anywhere around 1.4 million metric tons within the last 10 years. Also because kerosene prices were deregulated in 2013, 2014, so prices went up and the incentive for users to use kerosene went away and they went to LPG. Now, the LPG used in Nigeria is mostly isobutane and a little of propane. Nigeria produces more propane than isobutane. Isobutane is C4. Propane is C3. Last year, Nigeria exported about 800 metric tons of propane and then imported about 700,000 metric tons of isobutane because isobutane actually has a higher melting point and a lower boiling point. So it's better for temperate tropical countries like Nigeria that has the kind of weather we have. And then propane, on the other hand, is better in the West where they have snow and summer and then autumn and then they have spring. So you have to consider several factors. The first factor is bulk storage terminals. Currently, Nigeria, just this week, added about 30,000 metric tons in bulk storage terminals, which gas professionals call throughput. We had about 18,000 metric tons before this week, so that figure has bumped up to somewhere around 48,000 metric tons in bulk storage terminals. Dangote, when it comes on stream, is going to add another 297,000 metric tons of bulk storage terminal for LPG as throughput because his refinery is going to be producing C3 and C4 blend and is going to be producing a bit of LPG for the Nigerian market because C1 to C4 gases are actually lighter gases that are produced when you refine crude oil. So most of the crude oil LPG that is imported into Nigeria comes from the US, from a refinery called Sunoco Refinery in Texas in the United States. They also import from Argentina. So when you consider things like the cost of diesel for the ships that bring in product to Nigeria, about 5 to 6 LPG vessels, you consider the fact that an average 80,000 deadweight ton ship that brings in LPG consumes anywhere between 945 to 1,200 tons of diesel per day. You consider the cost of landing PMS LPG in Nigeria, you consider the fact that there's not enough throughput, you consider the cost of trucking LPG from the depots in Lagos, in Apapa, mostly, some places in Edo, a place in Delta State, Kwale Gas, you notice that the increase in price of LPG is actually justifiable. And another very important point you need to consider is the fact that the exchange rate, the fact that there is currently somewhere between 19.4 to 22% difference between the I and E window and the black market rate, as placed the people about 11 companies that import LPG into Nigeria, isobutane specifically, at a fix, because they don't get enough USD at the official markets to be able to import price. So they don't have a choice but to increase the prices. So for example, at ex-depot, a 20 metric ton of isobutane has gone up from anywhere between 9.2, 9.5 million in June, July to anywhere around 14 million. Some people are even selling for 14.2 million. So they don't have a choice but to increase the price. And
all right,
into
Kelvin.
Christmas, unless something different happens, we're going to have the projections that we're expecting.
Okay, Kelvin, you mentioned happenings in the international market. You mentioned that in Europe, winter's coming, so that's why we're seeing prices of gas there actually going up. But is this how it's going to affect Nigeria now? That's with gas prices. Can we call it a seasonal issue at this point because of what's happening abroad?
It's not a seasonal issue. Now, usually during the winter, it's currently autumn abroad, and when you go into the winter months on Platts, the price of a metric ton of isobutane and propane actually goes up marginally. But the jump we've seen, which is anywhere around maybe 40 or 30% jump, is unusual, and that jump applies to Nigeria mostly because of the exchange rates. So you can imagine that companies, that there's 11 companies, quite a number of them, maybe Rain Oil, Prudent Energy, Navgas, Vitol, Algasco, and the likes of them. They were getting USD at 600 plus, 700 plus, and now they're getting USD at 900, 950. And they're having to import the same LPG they were importing at a different exchange rate. The exchange rate is actually a major factor. And that exchange rate also affects landing costs because the cost of diesel has changed. The fact that crude oil price is now at $94 per barrel means that the cost of dual-purpose kerosene is going to go up. The cost of low fuel oil that ships actually used to sail to Nigeria is going to go up. There's also the issue in the gas value chain, the issue of the fact that currently Sahara Group has a partnership with NNPC, and they have a consortium called WAGIL that owns vessels that are leased as time charter to Nigerian liquefied natural gas. About 3 vessels, they ordered for a new one. Sahara also has ordered for a new vessel that is being built, I think from South Korea, and that is going to be delivered in 2025. There are currently about 5 to 6 ships, LPG ships, serving the whole Nigeria. So you have a problem of LPG vessels. You also have a problem of bulk storage terminals. The fact that even if you bring stock into Nigeria, you can't hold it for too long because there are not enough storage terminals to hold this thing and then take advantage of those seasonal adjusted gaps. So these are factors. But in my estimate, I'll tell you this: because refineries produce C1 to C4 gases, propane and isobutane, even if methane, that is C1, is like 85% of the content of natural gas, I expect that if Dangote's bulk storage terminal of 297,000 metric tons come on stream, and if the breaking news that we're hearing that was delivered in an interview by his chief operating officer is anything to go by, Davin Kumar Edwin, that they are going to start operations next month, I expect that you're going to see this huge surge in prices of LPG moderate a little bit because of the cost of handling, which takes anywhere between 25 and 28% for landing LPG into Nigeria.
All right. Also, I saw that the marketers, that's the LPG marketers, are blaming the NNPCL and the terminal owners. They see that landing cost there has gone up about between 9 to 10 million per 20 metric tons, so about 14 million per 20 metric tons. Is it still the currency devaluation issue with them?
So there are two major issues. I don't think NNPCL can blame the marketers bringing in. I've just mentioned to you the issues they have, that before this week, you had ASICO announced that their 30,000 metric ton bulk storage terminal has come on stream this week. You had 18,000 metric tons of bulk storage terminal or throughput. I'll tell you that throughput is a major issue, because there are about 10 or 11 companies that import LPG into Nigeria. And you have an issue of, even if you want to bring stock into Nigeria, there's nowhere to store it. And if you go to these companies and say you want to lease their bulk storage terminal, in that terminal user agreement, they will tell you they don't have it available, even if sometimes their storage is empty. So if NNPC wants to really change the situation, then maybe NNPC should go into, actually, since it's a private company, building its own bulk storage terminal. There is no reason for you to blame them, because there isn't just enough bulk storage terminal in Nigeria to store isobutane that is imported into the country.
And okay, well, we know the problem at this point, Kelvin, but December is not far off right now. What do you think should be done now in the short term to make sure consumers don't have to go through buying a 12.5 kilogram gas canister for 18,000 naira? What can we do to avert this in the short term?
Well, to be honest with you, I saw where the Federal Account Allocation Committee wrote a letter to NNPC asking for $55 million balance from the monies NNPC debited from over 200 and something million dollars that was supposed to be paid for the Federation account, that it ended up paying for its FX forwards for the subsidy regime that has passed. There is a fact, there's a known fact in Nigeria that we have a crisis in our FX markets. We have a crisis from the fact that the net external reserves has dropped below the current outstanding FX forwards that are being owed. Is dropped below the principle of the ratio of reserves to 1 year external debt, for the financial cycle. And it's dropped to uncomfortable levels that does not incentivize FPIs and FDIs to bring in their FX into Nigeria. And NNPCL is not contributing as much as it's supposed to be contributing to FAC and supply the markets with USD, because it's a major supplier of the markets. NLNG, on the other hand, supplies FX to the markets once in a year after their financial year. So the short term, I think the president did well on his trip to India. The president needs to convince companies to bring in non-speculative FDIs urgently. Give them personal assurances to bring in non-speculative FDIs into the capital account to wipe out the current outstanding. You saw that in the trip to the UAE. The president had the negotiation with the UAE government, and there was an agreement in principle, but for precondition on certain terms, that Emirates and Etihad's outstanding in Nigeria, which falls under capital remittances, is going to be repatriated to them, and the FX markets will be liberalized. So you need to solve the issue of outstanding FX forwards. You need to solve the issue of supply in the market so that the black market premium, or the difference between the parallel market and the IE window, begins to align back to normal, and you begin to have a fair value of anywhere around 800 or 780 naira, so that the people who import LPG into Nigeria will have USD at fair value to be able to import and not face the risk. Because at the end of the day, they are into business to make money. Unless the government intends to subsidize Nigerians by saying that, okay, you land it at so cost, if you're going to charge at maybe 1,000 naira or 1,200 naira per kg, we're going to pay you a subsidy to reduce the cost, which in my opinion...
So, Kelvin, the subsidy story again. So you're talking about the subsidy story at this point again.
Yes, the subsidy story. I don't think it's a good thing for the government to introduce subsidies.
But I'm wondering if the government can afford it at this point.
They can't afford it. They can't afford it. But at this point in time, you do realize, Ladi, that Nigerians are going through excruciating pains, and not so many people will be able to take on the price of LPG that they usually buy, doubling by 100% for the holiday season.
Right. All right. Well, Kelvin, I do hope, the pepper that you referred to in that tweet, I hope we don't have to go through it, definitely, because consumers are really strained at this point. Thank you so much. Always great having your perspective. Kelvin Emmanuel, CEO, Dairy Hills Limited. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Ladi.
Welcome back for Commodities Market Update. Now we see U.S. WTI futures was up by 98 cents this morning at $92.46 a barrel. We see the global benchmark Brent crude, that's up 46 cents. We see it's trading at $94.89 a barrel. Dumebi Oluwole joins me now, senior analyst, financial derivatives company, joins me right here in the studio. Dumebi, I remember the last time we spoke, I believe oil was around 70s.
Yeah,
and I
think
did
76.
ask the question that is it going to get to that $60 level? But fast forward to today, no, it did not happen. And it looks like the bulls are firmly in control, right now. But it's looking like more of a supply side, issue. Do you think this price rally is sustainable?
I mean, it is a supply side issue. Saudi Arabia is extending its supply cuts up until the end of the year. Russia as well is extending its supply cuts at least for the next 1 month. And all of this is just playing out in the market. So sentiments are pretty bullish, actually very bullish. Very bullish. And their forecast that oil prices could actually touch $100 per barrel before the end of the year. And with that happening, what we're going to continue to see is global central banks actually, tightening their grip on inflation, because chances are that there would be that pass-through effect from higher global oil prices to gas prices, and then this will definitely fuel inflationary pressures globally. And if that happens globally, if we see central banks like the U.S. Fed, which will be having its meeting very shortly, and then if the U.S. Fed decides to continue tightening, we'll see African countries who are heavily dependent on importation, and they're also seeing their currencies actually take a hit because of this consistent increase in global interest rates. We'll definitely see that play out, we'll definitely see that have an impact on these countries, especially Nigeria, as of today.
Because when I check the oil market and I see prices going up, I'm afraid for what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I mean, now that Nigeria's petrol market is deregulated, that pass-through effect will be there. But like Nigeria did, and also we even saw the same thing happen in Kenya. There's this temporary stabilization subsidy happening just to keep fuel prices stable for Nigerians, and just to mitigate the cost burden that is currently skyrocketing for a lot of Nigerians. However, like we did see in Kenya has actually taking a backseat on this stabilization, temporary stabilization, just simply because that pass-through effect has to just happen. We might see the federal government actually do this, simply because now the margin between diesel prices and oil prices is already getting very wide again. And we've also seen the naira take a hit as well. The official rate of the naira is trending lower, and this depreciation combined with higher global prices could force the NNPCL and even the federal government to allow the pass-through effect to prices. Now, what we would likely see is that it would be a gradual increase rather than just a sharp increase in petrol prices. So rather than the pump price, skyrocketing to about 700, 800 immediately, we would just see this staggered increase in petrol prices. That's what we would likely see. Still because the government is embarking or they're trying to put effort into mitigating or reducing the impact of higher fuel prices on the cost of living for Nigerians. But regardless, there will still be that pass-through effect to food prices and transportation costs as well. And
talking about $100 at this point, it's now in the cards that right now, and we've seen analysts and traders actually forecasting that that's going to happen. But I'm wondering, can the global economy take $100 barrel oil at this point?
I mean, it's not something to rule out, just simply because we're definitely seeing a rebound in global economic activities. There was a surge in consumer spending in the US by over 5%. China is also getting its feet back. India as well. So we're definitely seeing that rebound in economic activities, and I don't think it's just something to rule out. Higher global oil prices is something that should be very beneficial to oil exporting countries, including Nigeria. Although Nigeria's break-even point, according to S&P Global Platts, is around $130 per barrel, and we don't see oil prices reaching that peak. However, at $100 per barrel, Nigeria should generate some significant revenue. So what this means is it's a double-edged sword for Nigeria at this point. So while we could see an increase in government revenue from oil, that would definitely feed into the federal allocation, the monthly disbursements that from FAC to state governments. We've seen that increase over time, and while we definitely see that also feed into the federation account, we could see a little bump in external reserves, and that would aid the CBN's ability to stabilize naira at the official market
to increase our output.
Exactly. So while there's that whole dynamics playing out, we also cannot rule out the impact of the reforms that have already taken place that could net this off, or offset the impact of this, just simply because there's now a direct hit on consumer wallets from global oil prices to the pumps and then to your living expenses. So yeah, it's going to be quite a tough call for the CBN, for the federal government actually to balance out.
And the major central bankers are meeting this week. What are we expecting? Tightening, hold, or cuts? Cuts just seems impossible.
No,
right?
Right now cuts are pretty off the table.
Right.
And that's just because global inflationary pressures are not, they're not reining in any soon. And even with all the efforts, we're still seeing this inflationary pressures increase. And the longer the Russia-Ukraine war lingers, the longer it stays, the chances of global inflationary pressures, remaining or even worsening is still very high, and that would definitely continue to feed into the considerations for all of the global central banks. And right now, it's more of like a leader and a follower kind of thing. Once the US Fed, makes a particular move, we see almost the same reaction from the Bank of England, the ECB, and even domestic central banks as well, just simply because there is that transmission mechanism from whatever happens with the US Fed to all the other economies, particularly frontier economies and emerging markets like Nigeria. So definitely what we're looking at is a scenario where we would see another tightening happening, simply because the US inflation actually did come in higher. Core inflation also increased marginally. And while we're still expecting further inflation numbers to come out, there is still that uptick in consumer spending that could nudge the US's inflation higher, and they will also definitely consider higher global prices and how that would push gasoline prices higher. So there is that chance of the US Fed tightening again, and once that happens, the US dollar would definitely strengthen, and that would then feed into importation costs for other countries. And as well, there is the impact of the investor sentiments, and how that would definitely feed into the Nigerian economy. Even though we're seeing treasury bill prices, treasury bill rates increase. I think the 364-day treasury bill rate is going as high as 13% now. Yeah, it's going as high as 13%. Even 90 days is going for about 6% now, and 182 days is going for about 7%. So, but by the time you look at what inflation numbers are saying, it's still a negative rate of return for investors.
Yeah, still
and if the US Fed increases interest rates, we would definitely see investors pricing all of this risk pricing this risk and probably move to a more stable economy like the US. However, the stock exchange has been doing pretty well, and we might see an influx of FPI inflows to the stock exchange rather than influx of
so much to unpack there.
Exactly.
Looking out for next meeting next Thursday. Let's see what oil prices will be at then. Thank you so much. It was great having you as always. Jumobi Oluwole, Senior Analyst, Financial Derivatives Company. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Well, the upcoming 29th summit of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, NESG, is set to take place from the October 23rd to 24th and carries the thought-provoking theme, Pathways to Sustainable Economic Transformation and Inclusion. Let's get a sense of what to expect now. Joining me is Ijoma Taylor, ED, Alpha African Advisory. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. So we understand that the NESG's 29th summit, that's coming up 23rd to 24th with the theme, Pathways to Sustainable Economic Transformation and Inclusion. Would you shed more light on the significance of this theme for the economy at this time?
Thank you. So I think that just the trick is really in the theme name, Pathways to Sustainable Economic Transformation and Inclusion. And I'll just pick out a couple of words. I'll pick out sustainable and I'll pick out inclusion, because it really just highlights the need for Nigeria to chart a course for all of us towards a more diversified, resilient, and inclusive economy. And I picked out those two words, sustainable as well as inclusion. Inclusion really just speaks to ensuring that the prosperity is shared by all, and sustainable, speaking towards the economic transformation, really being one that is sustainable, and I use that word again, but really ensuring that we have concrete strategies and collaborations among stakeholders, ensuring that whatever we lay down as a foundation for the future is prosperous and it's equitable.
Looking at the sub-theme now, mobilizing finance for sustainable development, the upcoming meeting, how can this be, achieved to address the urgent social and environmental challenges?
So, I have to say, resource mobilization is really vital for tackling social and environmental challenges and for fostering economic growth. And when you think about it critically, there's just really an urgent need to boost domestic revenues. Beyond that, beyond boosting the revenues, it's ensuring that the finance is accessible by all. And how do you need to think about it from two perspectives. In terms of boosting the revenues, you're talking about broadening the tax net. You're talking about improving collection efficiency. And then improving the access to finance in high growth sectors. But more critically is ensuring that there's inclusion, people are able to access this finance, and that beyond that, we're leveraging competitive programs that can, ensure that the development is sustainable by sort of investing in impact investing, for example, that will ensure that financial institutions are strengthened, that would ensure that, that would ensure that international cooperation and development funding is attracted to Nigeria, really just looking at it from the corporate social responsibility standpoint.
And definitely another big issue is brain drain, with the jackpot trend now. How can Nigeria harness human capital to tackle, the brain drain issue and youth unemployment?
We're just, there's a lot of Nigerians, there's a lot of us, over 200 million, and I forget what the percentage is, but a huge significant portion of that is really just our youth. And, knowledge, skills, and the ability of our citizens to really drive productivity is what will ensure that this development that we keep talking about is actually sustainable. And because of the limited access to quality education, the limited access to adequate infrastructure, qualified teachers, the healthcare system, these are the issues that we really need to tackle. And to combat this brain drain and this DACA syndrome that we're talking about, we need to make the investment that is necessary. Investment in education, and not just formal education as we know it, but vocational and technical training, diversifying the economy beyond the more traditional sectors, making the economy more attractive, promoting entrepreneurship. The informal sector is huge. we have SMEs, and the small and the medium are such a large bracket of the SMEs. And if we're able to strengthen sort of these innovative sectors, if you like, tech is huge around the world, but really just strengthening these sectors as well as creating a favorable environment for skilled professionals to work in, you will find that the questions people will ask themselves is, why do I need to japa? You understand, when I can actually stay here and really just work. And I continue to say that we need to forge this partnership between the public and the private sectors. It's not just the public sector. Yes, the public sector has to support, if you like, in terms of providing an enabling environment, adequate infrastructure, etc. But we need the people here to really drive this innovation that we speak about. So by prioritizing sort of the measures, investing in education, investing in healthcare, because the JAPA is not just based on education and opportunities abroad. Part of it is also medical tourism, people leaving the country for medical reasons. So if we're able to prioritize these measures, then we can look to harness the human capital, address these pressing issues, and hopefully ensure that the economic growth that we're working
definitely
towards.
all these issues definitely need to be targeted with the targeted investment. I want to thank you for coming on the show, Ijoma Taylor, the ED Alpha African Advisor. It was great having your perspective today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, now from there, we head straight to the markets. Now, look at how your money performed yesterday and what to expect from today. I have Aniete packed with all of those details. Great to have you.
Yeah, good morning, Buddy.
Good morning. Yeah, quite a big jump.
Another trading day for the markets.
Good way to start the week.
Yes,
yesterday, 0.71%, 67,000, although you've lost your 68,000 level, historic high.
But at the same time, if you take a look at your board there, you see that year to date, the all share index it has gone back to 32%, which means the returns that the investors are getting is still in the green, of course. And then when you take a look at your board there, it's still pretty much at a comfortable level, because this is still in the historic highs, which we've been talking about in a couple of weeks ago. It was about some 15 years of highs for the all-share index performance. The last time we'd ever seen this kind of a picture that you see there, it was around 2008, and that was about 66,000. So at 67,000, when you gauge the index, it's right on the high side.
Exactly.
I should tell you. So that's it for our market. We had the market was up by more than 480 basis points, but when you look at your board there in percentage terms, that translates to about 0.71%. In valuation terms, it's also 263.49 billion naira added to the market. Now, when you take a look at that, it was attributed to the gains from the gains from Airtel Africa, the gains from Stanbic IBTC, as well as some other key bellwether stocks on the exchange. We had about 32 gainers in contrast to 26 losers. We had 29 gainers against 26 losers for the market at the close of Monday's trading session. Now let's take a look at the sectoral performance. It's kind of a mixed picture there, but the greens have it. The banking counter, 1.4%. Take a look at it there. Insurance counter, 0.1%, while oil and gas was in the red. And we also saw the consumer goods making a kind of a mild recovery in contrast to what you had previously. Now, in terms of the volume of transaction carried out, we saw a slight drop for the total volume. There was down by 26%, and then we also saw the value at about 8.92 billion naira. Now, all these were attributed to a mixture of bargain hunting, at the same time some sell pressure. But to give us more details about this market, let's talk to Afolabi Gbero, equity sales trader at Stanbic IBTC. Thank you for joining us, Afolabi. Hello, Afolabi, can you hear us? I don't think we have Afolabi there. But for that market we were talking about, as at last week, because the market is still in session now, we just began trading on the NGX. Last week we saw the share price, the shares of Royal Exchange being lifted from the suspension which was placed on it a couple of months ago. So that has now the trading has resumed for that market. Then for this market, the market is still digesting the impacts of the inflation report, which was released on Friday by the National Bureau of Statistics, and at the same time, the market is also looking at the announcement of a nomination of the new central bank governor by the new president, by President Bola Tinubu. So now let's try Afolabi Gbero again if we can get him. Afolabi, can you hear us? Hello, Afolabi, can you hear us? I don't think we have him right now. So I was saying, so now the market is still looking at the central bank, the announcement of a new central bank governor in the name of Yemi Cardoso. So now, when you talk about the central bank, it has impact across the economy. When you talk about the fixed income market as well as the stock market, so all eyes are on that. At the moment, the Senate is on recess, but once the Senate resumes, we'll have the confirmation. We're expecting that the Senate will confirm him, but next week we will be having the Monetary Policy Committee meeting of the central bank, which would be which is expected to be held by the current leadership of the central bank under the acting governor of the central bank. Now let's move over to the money market side of the market. We saw bearish trading for the bonds market. There you see there, we saw sell-off on the March 2024 paper. It was up by 84 basis points. So that was how it ended for that market. But take a look at your board there, which was for trading on the FMDQ securities market. We saw just a total number of 10 deals carried out there, worth about 5.27 billion naira, which is what you see there. The highest contributors there was the 26th of April 2029 paper, followed by the 21st of June 2053 paper. Let's move over to the other side of that market, the Treasury bills market to be precise. So we saw bullish transactions there. The average yield there had declined by 11 basis points to 7.9%. And then the average yield also declined at the short end by more than 111 basis points. That's because investors demanded the 66-day to maturity bills paper. Now look at your board there. The 22nd of February 2024 paper had the highest number of deals there, worth about 41.0 billion, and was the major contributor to a total number of 40 deals carried out there at the market. Moving over to the open market operations of the market, we saw average yield that expanded by 14 basis points to 13.4%. If we can have that on your screen there. So that's it for the open market. But tomorrow we will be expecting that the market will have is still expected to be tepid, not much of activity expected there for the fixed income market. Well, we would have had analysts to give us more details about the equities market, which is currently in session. But at the moment, we'll just keep our fingers crossed on the bullish performance for the equities market, particularly when you eye so many factors coming into the market, maybe company announcements, as well as some new investors' appetite maybe waning or increasing. So that's it, Ladi, for that market.
Right. And it's a great information there. We're definitely looking out for the close today for the local boss. Thank you so much. It was great having your analysis. Thank you, Anita. Well, we'll move on to other markets now. We see, the crypto market, digital market. There we see Bitcoin still holding on, remaining in a positive zone, about $26,200 this morning. So the sentiment in the market now, we see the sentiment right there still quite fearful right there in the market. But the green is the color right here for the market. We see green all through $26,819 this morning. Ethereum also in the green. Just a couple of red dots here with BNB dots, but majorly we're seeing the market is quite in the green right now. Let's look at the sentiments this morning. We see the sentiments in the market. That's about fear, 46 points. fear is what we're still seeing. We've been at this level for a while now. Definitely looking forward to what happens, going forward. Let's look at the top cryptocurrencies that we track. We see Bitcoin there holding on $26,819, up 0.52 this morning. Then XRP, they're holding at 50 cents. Did hold this level most of last week and still maintaining at this point 2.62% up. Is the biggest gainer we have this morning with BNB. That's a Binance exchange token there, $216. It's down 0.35, in opposite direction of what we're seeing in the market. Let's bring in Rume Ofi now, financial market analyst. Hello, Rume. Good morning.
Good morning, Adi. Good morning.
Great to have you, Rume, as usual. Well, Rume, a lot is going on in the market now, and we're seeing FTX back in the news again this time. It looks like Sam Bankman-Fried's family, they're being sued right now by FTX. Why is FTX suing the former CEO's family at this point?
His father, which is a professor at Stanford University, very, very popular person, is getting himself involved. That's Joseph Bankman there. And the wife, Barbara Bankman, received $10 million in cash as a gift, which these are said to be proceeds of the luxury property in Bahamas. And this is being investigated right now. And it is not looking nice at all because their son, Sam Bankman-Fried, actually collapsed an exchange in 2022, people losing a whole lot of money. It's a very huge collapse for the entire cryptocurrency market. But for their parents getting involved and trying to siphon money through the back door, it only shows that corruption is something that is no respecter of race and intellectual capacity. Someone would expect that the father, being an university don, will have to stay away from something like this. But it has been accused by the FTX new leadership that not even that $5 million gift, but a whole of about $30 million that is being accused of them being appropriated. But we're going to see the reality of all of this discussion as time goes by, because it's not looking good that a family that is supposed to at least protect their image are totally destroying it because of money. But it is what it is. The industry is going to grow ahead and move ahead of all of these challenges, and we will see a light at the end of the tunnel.
Let's hope other digital and crypto exchanges, especially the centralized ones, hope they learn from what happened to FTX right now. But how are you seeing the confidence in the market generally? Are you seeing investors, buying, most of the dips that we see in the market right now as cash going to the sidelines?
Larry, the truth is that crypto has a very huge future because it is the future of finance. It has a very huge future. You can imagine the stock market, global stock market, amounting to about 15 to 19 trillion dollars, and some other top companies having some huge capitalization right there. You can imagine crypto, the Bitcoin, which is the big daddy, just coming up and gaining some very good share of the market. Only shows that they're going to be a huge future in the market when all of this dust has settled. But for now, it's more neither here nor there. There's still some kind of sentiment here. People are a bit scared because of all of the challenges that are happening in the market, most especially the traditional finance system, which actually has its impact. For example, I'm looking at, if oil touches $100 per barrel, for example, people are going to be stay away from risky assets, are going to suffer. And some other challenges that are going to happen. If tech stocks are affected, if the general stock market is affected, nobody's going to jump into crypto. So, considering all of the macro, which the macro is also very important in all of these challenges. So, but for me, like I said earlier, it's going to be a bumpy ride. This might be the last rally that we're going to have before all of the collapse. But the Fed issue is still there. 2% is their target, and they're going to achieve it.
Right. I guess Rume is definitely saying if oil hits $100, then is risk off. for most of these markets. Thank you so much, Rume Ofi. Always great having your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Larry. Thank you.
All right, now let's flip over to the top gainers counter. Let's use top of the counter this morning for the top gainers in the crypto market. We see most of the altcoins there getting quite bullish, but we see eCash, XCC, less than a penny there, holding up 11.84%, double-digit gain. We also see GMX. This was on the top gainers this morning, 34 cents, $34, up 4.56%. And Solana, yeah, remember the Solana story. Now FTX in the news. Solana is there, also on the top gainers counter. Arweave is topping the losers counter, down 4.59%. IOTA, that was on the gainers counter yesterday, but we've seen some profit taken on that, 14 cents, down 1.81%. So generally, that's how the crypto market is looking. Still fear right there in the market, and definitely be looking out for how Bitcoin plays out tomorrow. So that's the program today. Don't forget, join us by 1:30 on Business Incorporated for more updates and developments in the world of business. Remember, you can watch this again on our YouTube channel. Just flip over to YouTube, click on our videos, you can watch all our productions. Thank you again for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Have a profitable day.